I never really used to talk about money much as a pastor. I was taught growing up that it's best not to talk about things like sex and money and politics. So I took my childhood learnings into the church. I have never spoken publicly about politics before. I've done one sermon on sex. I had a bunch of people show up for that one. Maybe I'll do that one again sometime. But I do talk about money now, and probably it's not for the reason that you think I do. I talk about money because Jesus talked about money. More than anything else and more than everything else, Jesus talked about money. So I figure if Jesus talked about money, I need to talk about money as well. I talk about money because all of us deal with money every day. Making it, spending it, saving it, thinking about it, investing it, giving it away. It's a real life issue for all of us. And we all know that money affects our relational, emotional, and spiritual lives. Yep, money is a spiritual issue, so I talk about it. I talk about money because God is generous. Generous is who God is, so generous is what God does. We are created in God's image. We have fallen from that image. Do you really want to be known as a greedy person? We most look like Jesus when we serve, when we forgive, and when we give. Our practicing generosity restores us back to God's image. And I talk about money to resource the church. I believe in what we do. I joyfully give much of my life to the water's edge. I believe Jesus Christ is the hope of the world. I believe in helping hurting people. I believe in investing in the next generation. And I believe in creating and enhancing friendships because we're created to live in community, not isolation. And I also believe in salvation by grace through faith, that the church leads people into an abundant and faithful life here in the present, and that the church leads people into eternal life with God forever. So let's look at the ways that Jesus talked about money. In his great sermon, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus has a lot to say about money. So if you're presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple and you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar. Go and be reconciled to that person. Then come and offer your sacrifice to God. You know, I say something like that too because Jesus did and because he's right. So if you're standing in the communion line and you have your check in your hand and then you realize about as you're ready to make your offering that you have to go make a phone call or send a text message to make things right with someone, I want you to go and do that. Then come back and give your offering when things are taken care of. Relationships are more important than money. A lot of things are. If you have the choice in life between some cash or a healthier relationship or a new relationship, choose the person 10 times out of 10. Spend your time investing and playing and doing nothing together. People are more important than possessions. Money is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. It provides things like food and shelter and clothing, transportation and travel, opportunities for our children, supporting charities, saving for a rainy day or retirement. But have you ever heard the phrase before that you can have too much of a good thing? Jesus, he knew what this meant. And we read about this in the next chapter of Matthew. No one, he says, can serve two masters. For you will either hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Now Jesus, he thought that money was good. In fact, he told parables about the blessings that come from the wise use of money. The issue Jesus had with money is when it competes with God and displaces God in the primary place in our heart. We are not created to live in a relationship with money. You can be only so intimate with George Washington or your 401k statement. We are created to live in a relationship with God and with others. We can only have one first priority in our lives. We can either be a slave to money or a servant to Christ. A few verses later, Jesus talks about putting God first in our life, making God our first priority, restoring Him to the primary place in our hearts. Seek first the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and He will give you everything you need. So it's a promise, and God keeps His promises. I've been a pastor for 20 years now, and I have listened to thousands of people. I have never once had anybody tell me that they regretted putting God first in their life. Never. not a single time. I've had a lot of people tell me the opposite of that. That they work too much, thinking that financial security is what they needed most in life. They spent too much money on shoes or gadgets or a nice car that would fill their needs. Or they built, or bought too much of a house, and that house, it just never was quite a home. You'll never be disappointed when you relentlessly chase the Creator first as a focused and balanced and restored person, and then enjoy the Creator's creation. One of the most prophetic teachings Jesus has to do with money and salvation, when he says, "And what will you benefit if you gain the entire world but lose your soul? Is anything worth more than your soul?" I observe people giving their lives and seeking excellence in athletics or academics or work or art or finances, thinking that more success and more fame and more respect and more fortune is what will bring them contentment and joy and significance. I observe less people seeking excellence in their relationship with God, putting their soul first. Putting your soul first doesn't mean that you have to take an oath of poverty and not do anything except pray and read the Bible. Jesus tells us to be light to a dark world, to be influencers and leaders and servants and listeners and donors. Putting your soul first means that you put your soul first because there's nothing more important than your soul. And you live your life then for God and with God as a student and a worker and an athlete and an artist and an investor. Jesus, he talks about investing. Not the kind of investing that you'll read about in Forbes or Kiplinger's, but a more important type of investing. Don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where the moths and the rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. Some of us spend so much time and energy polishing an idol plated in fool's gold, sacrificing a flourishing, life-giving relationship with God on the altars of greed and materialism. John Wesley, he is the founder of Methodism. He made a lot of money now, not because he was a pastor, it's because he was a best-selling author. He had this little motto that he lived by. It says, "Earn all you can, save all you can, give all you can." He and his people, they started hospitals, thus the name Methodist Hospital. He and his people, they started orphanages, thus the name Methodist Children's Home. He and his people started colleges all over the world, thus the name Nebraska Wesleyan or Iowa Wesleyan. He and his people started churches all over the world that continue today to change the world. He'd be a small footnote in history had he kept his riches. A couple hundred years later, he is one of the great giants of faith and a man who shaped history. When Jesus says something like, "Don't stockpile your money," this is what he was talking about. Now I want to take a break for a moment. I'm a pastor. I get that money is not an easy topic for everybody. You have all had small group sessions that were a little bit more comfortable than this one. This will find some of you in financial hardship. I know that it will. Divorce happens, so does unemployment, so do the consequences of poor choices, and so does bad luck. If that is the case, I encourage you to reach out to our pastoral staff. I would love to listen to you and pray with you. Our Director of Congregational Care, Gail Ortegren, she would love to do the same. We offer a great class. It's called Financial Peace University. Hundreds of our people have been through this class. Budgets have been created, debt has been paid off, savings have been started, and generosity is now being practiced. And one more. We now have a financial coaching ministry. Ron Christensen, our Director of Business and Planning, recently went through an intensive training and mentoring program. Personal finance has always been an interest for Ron, and he is now equipped and ready to serve people in our church and in our community. Take him up on this. A few hours of planning can really make a big change in your future. I want us to look at one more verse. It comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, verses 28 through 30. "But don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it? Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of money. And then everyone would laugh at you. They would say, 'There's the person that started that building and couldn't afford to finish it.'" Here's an application for our church. Our leadership, so here we're talking volunteers, some of our staff, experts we have hired, and myself, we have worked diligently counting the cost. We can and will complete our building project. It hasn't been easy so far, and it won't be easy in the future. But nothing in life worthwhile is ever easy. We have done 2 capital campaigns, and y'all have hit grand slam home runs. Every time I ask for money to resource our missions and for our mission partners, y'all come through every time. Release Ministries, the Hope Center for Kids, Uganda, Belize, our youth mission trips, Together Omaha, the larger United Methodist Church. You have all given away hundreds of thousands of dollars to missions over the years. This missional giving is going to continue because the Water's Edge is going to continue to model the way in generosity. And we have counted the cost. We know that giving to our annual budget will need to increase. The building will bring new expenses and will also bring many new opportunities for us. None of us want to be building rich and ministry poor, do we? Our giving to the annual budget will need to grow 10% in 2017 over 2016. This is the cost that we have counted. This will let me look the parents of our children in the eye and say that our age-level ministries are adequately resourced. It will allow us to develop leaders and provide excellent worship experiences and hire a much-needed staff person or two, and also invite our community into a relationship with Jesus Christ. We have done this type of growth in our giving before, and we will do it again. It's not everybody else's job, it's our opportunity together. And what an amazing opportunity this is. Our new church building is going to be a difference maker and a game changer in this part of the city. Together, we can do this while giving money the proper place in our lives and also restoring ourselves into the image of God.